right, everybody in Facebook and YouTube land, we are live. This is the behind the scenes of the Smoke Ring Syndicate's episode for this week, the trailer trash episode, the barbecue roundtable, if you will. We'll go ahead and hit the intro, and we'll get started. Do a brief check in on who you guys are, and we'll start it up. What's up, guys? It's Wes, the People's Pitmaster, back again with another episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. It's my weekly barbecue podcast that drops every Wednesday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last week, we went to Tampa, and we chatted with Mike of and Tampa, M&M Barbecue and Tampa Pig Roast. This week, he's joining us again with the Barbecue Roundtable Trailer Trash Chat. We're also joined by Jeff Maxwell out of Ottawa, Tennessee. Jeff, Mike, you guys there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning, barbecue lovers.
Good morning. Guys, I'm going to give you guys just a second just to kind of introduce yourselves to one another. Mike Silverstein out of St. Pete, Florida, and you run M&M Barbecue and Tampa Pig Roast, correct?
Absolutely.
And Jeff Maxwell out of Ottawa, Tennessee. Smoking Goat Barbecue?
Yes, Smoking Goat Barbecue.
Smoking Goat Barbecue. So I just want to kind of chit chat with you guys about barbecue catering and working out of a trailer and events and that sort of thing. As we run along, we may get questions in the YouTube that will pop up. Very similar to this here on the bottom that you see. And if we get a question comes in while we're live, we'll attack it best we can. So talk to me, Mike, or I'm sorry, Jeff. Just give me a brief overview of how long you've been in the trailer and doing barbecue on a full-time basis.
Full-time basis, as far as selling in the trailer, is 6 months. I've competed for 6-7 years, but as far as a full-time business, 6 months.
Okay. So relatively new to the business then, as far as food service, I guess you could say. And Mike's been in it for a good long time, since what, 08, 09?
No, we got started in 2001, and I quit my day job in 2003.
Okay. All right.
No, I did spend 25 years in the restaurant industry, prior to starting my own place. So I do have a background in food.
You got a lot of background in food at 25 years. So 25 years in the restaurant industry, and then you just retired and said, you know what, I can't be retired and get back to it.
It's pretty similar to that story. It's just I wanted to see if I could do it on my own.
Okay. All right. So talk to me about you guys both have trailers. Talk to me about how you go about designing a trailer that will work for you. And when you got your trailer, was it brand new? Was it used? Did you have it custom built, or how'd you go about deciding what kind of a trailer you were going to cook out of? Jeff, you can go first.
Okay. Well, I bought one off of Steve Ray, which you've used my trailer, Wes. He had borrowed it to you. So I made some modifications based on what I wanted to do. Because the trailer is going to limit the quantity, or it's going to limit your menu to some extent, because you only have so much refrigerator space, you only have so much cooking space, you only have so many warming stations. So you're going to be limited to some extent, but you want to have a decent variety. So it was important to me to have a grill in there. It was important to me to have a couple warming stations so I could hold sides for the most part, and then have a warming station for my proteins that I was going to serve on a daily basis that were regular menu items. Pretty much everything that I did as specials was cooked on the grill. So that allowed me the flexibility to have more than one or 2 items as a special.
Hmm. What about you, Mike?
Had a little bit of a different approach. I'm a machine builder by trade, and did a lot of work for mainly for the food industry, big companies like General Mills and Procter and Gamble. So I built all of my stainless gear in late 2000. I have a purpose-built oven, purpose-built offset smoker that fits about 3 hogs at a time. And then, like Jeff had mentioned, a grill is, I've got my barbecue pit, but I've also got a large grill. So that being said, I had my equipment, and then I bought a purpose built trailer from Wells Cargo. They actually wanted to sell me a bigger trailer at the time I was doing the Saturday morning market downtown. So the footprint couldn't exceed 24 feet with the tongue. So I've got a 20-foot trailer with a 12-foot cooking porch and an 8-foot prep area. A lot of the guys with the trailers have a smaller porch that kind of fits the smoker. I've seen through walls done similar to what's done at a restaurant, but I already had my equipment that I didn't want to part with. So we got I got the smallest trailer that would make my menu work. Jeff's right, the your cooking gear and your space determines, what size groups you can cook for. Now, I routinely do groups of 400 up to about 1,200 people. So some of that's like, I guess you would call it just-in-time delivery, where I'll pick up, all the pork that goes into the smoker the night before, and then pick up all my chicken fresh first thing in the morning, and then of course that would go on right away. So there's a few little tricks and tips to get around the storage. When I had a restaurant, which is another story, but I had a walk-in available, which made things a lot easier as far as making that happen. But there's a few tips and tricks to get around it. So we bought our Wells cargo unit in '07 after working off of a flatbed doing fairs and festivals, and then graduated to the actual trailer right before the recession hit and food trucks kind of blew up here.
It's a really good time to get into the food business right during the recession, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like
Well,
it is now.
well, everybody thought so. That's a little bit of side story. Um, I'm not. I'd be interested to hear, from Jeff, but there's about 4 million people or so in the greater Tampa Bay area. There's almost a million in Pinellas County, and food trucks are really overrepresented on quantity now. And we're well established, and I'm as busy as I want to be, but some of the other
Yeah.
folks that kind of jumped in, um, they lost their jobs or things had been downsized right around the recession, and figured that they would jump into doing their own thing. Like myself and like Jeff, hey, let's see if I can do this myself, kind of thing.
Well, Mike,
Yeah.
here I was talking to Wes before the show started. Um, Here in Tennessee, the counties used to dictate, the food trailer industry and the approval of it. And what happened was a bunch of people went to the state because the counties were denying and trying to control the amount of food trucks on the street. Well, the state took that over now. Now you get approved through the state, and they refer you to the county. And the county, if you meet the criteria, they have to approve it. So here in Hamilton County, which I don't know, the population is probably 350,000, would be my guess. They're approving 10 food trucks a day, 50 a
Wow.
week. Okay, so it's really an oversaturated situation. If you were to go, there's a street here called Brainerd Road. It's most of the businesses there are open Monday through Friday. If you go by there on a Saturday or Sunday, it's like a flea market. There are tons of trucks, people selling T-shirts, people selling purses, people, and it's literally a flea market in the middle of town, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But that's how saturated the market is. Everybody thinks they can run a food truck, and there's incubator situations here. They have a food truck alley that's set up where the incubator situation, they rotate them in just to try to get their name recognition out there. So there's there's some good things, but there's definitely an overpopulation in my opinion.
We had some similar issues. I'm licensed from the state of Florida. I also have property in North Georgia in the mountains. And Georgia had some of the same growing pains that you did. When I first got started, there really wasn't, you know, code for doing it per se. So I'm called a mobile food dispensing vehicle. So right on the side of my trailer it says MFDV and then a long number and then an actual license through the state. Now um, the state of Florida put an end to some of those rules and regulations that you had mentioned, where different townships could make up their own little things and then charge their own fees. So they streamlined that and made that easier. However, local municipalities can permit uh, use in certain areas and not in others. And so that's a little, whether you're in a food truck or a food trailer, unless it's an organized event, you're not going to operate as a food truck in downtown St. Petersburg. And it's the Chamber of Commerce and my fellow restaurateurs whom, I respect and support. Uh, gay, I don't want to say ganged up, but it's pretty much what happened. And they pushed through legislation with the city where there's a no-fly zone in downtown. So within a certain area, the downtown corridor, St. Pete is really upscale these days. We're a waterfront community, and we've got the bay on one side and the Gulf of Mexico on the other. Downtown is right along the bay. So there's 200 restaurants in like a few square miles of downtown St. Pete. And quite frankly, you're not going to really do well with a food truck in those areas anyway. So we've had some of those same type of issues, Jeff. It developed a little differently. Institute for Justice does a lot of work with some of these protectionist legislative efforts, and they try to make it a little easier for entrepreneurs like us to be able to operate.
Well, one of the things that was very prevalent here during the pandemic was food trucks were going to neighborhoods, going to an HOA and saying, "Hey, we'll be here on Saturday." And there'd only be one food truck there because, Mike, you know as well as I do, if you're the only game in town, it's going to be a successful day. And when you go and you have 10
Right.
different food trucks, how much do you cook, first of all? You don't want that waste. You don't want to sell out either, though. There's a lot more variables that come into play when you're competing against 10 other food trucks. But when there's one or two, now you can pretty much dial in how much you're going to need to make and, not have waste and all that kind of stuff. But the going into neighborhoods became quite prevalent, and it's
Yes.
still carried to this day. And that's here how they manage the food trucks a lot of times as far as inspection with the mobile food truck is via social media. They have 3 or 4 people assigned strictly to social media to review the pages of the food trucks to find out where they're going to be so that they can set up inspection on them. And
Okay.
you're pretty much familiar with, when you're you're governed by the state. So was I. Okay, because I'm on a property, or I was on the property of a barbecue supply store. So it fell under the Department of Agriculture, not under the local municipality. So when you have that inspection, they let you know in advance, hey, we're coming. When you have the county, they're going to show up 6:30 on a Friday. What's your busiest time of the day? 6:30 on a Friday. And they're going to disrupt your business. So, but they monitored here via social media for the mobile trucks, the people that are moving all over, and that's how they'll get their inspection in.
Yeah, obviously, there's no hiding it when you're doing that type of thing. I'm not a vendor anymore. I used to do the market. Um, and the pandemic thing is a perfect example too of some pivoting, Jeff. I've always been based, my business has always been based on catering. And it takes some of those guessworks out. I'm very careful on vending events that I do. I don't do very many of those anymore. I'm getting a little older, but
I'm with you.
regardless,
I'm with you.
yeah, regardless, I had some of the, you know, I'm a straightforward kind of guy, but was probably labeled as being difficult because I would ask questions. You know, how many food vendors are you going to have, and how many of them are barbecue kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Um, so they can't
Plus,
really they can't come out and find me on social media um, at somebody's private residence. So in Florida, Department of Ag and DBPR hotels and restaurants are two different outfits. So I'm listed under Department of Professional Regulations slash hotels and restaurants. So I basically carry the same license that you had when you were in the restaurant industry. Um, and theoretically, there's no notice on an inspection, but they're not going to just come out and find me. Obviously, I've got nothing to hide, and we have a great reputation, with our regulatory bodies here. But there's also some communities here that are not food truck friendly at all. Now they can't charge a different fee. The state put an end to that. But for instance, Seminole, which is a township in Pinellas County, doesn't allow any open flame cooking. So the hot dog guy at Home Depot or at Lowe's, that doesn't happen. So it's not that they're just, hey, we don't like food trucks. They've put in regulations where, you can't do it. Now
They
I
make it
know a
difficult.
barbecue. Oh yeah, yeah. So and I know a barbecue guy that sets up at the Lowe's just down the street from where I live, and good for him. And hopefully he's doing pretty well there. But I just don't do those type of events anymore.
so I wanted to talk about somebody that's like if we're talking to somebody that's thinking about getting into this business and vending events. Some of the questions that you find helpful when you're vetting an event, whether or not it's something that would be worth your time doing. What are some of the questions that somebody new to the food vending game should be, on the lookout for, and why?
Expected attendance. What is the demographic of that attendance? Is it going to be adults? Is it going to be kids? Typically, what they tell you, I cut that in half. If they tell me there's going to be 500 people, I imagine there's 250. How many other vendors will be there? How many will be food specific to what I'm selling? Um, you know, um, Time to set up, time to break down. So I know how much time I'm going to need at the event. Will they allow me to pull up, start a fire and go, or am I going to have to be there 2 hours before the event to have set it up and then leave the premises, come back and cook? There's all kinds of variables. What my space is going to be, how much space I'm going to be allowed. So that tells me whether I can bring my food truck or whether I have to do some type of satellite thing with a tent. Okay. There's all kinds of variables for one of those events.
What you
I
like?
Yeah, Jeff hit all the major points. I get it in writing anymore. Yes, how many food vendors and what types? And then is it a first annual event? So those are big things. And I don't want to say that they lie about attendance, but
Yes, they do.
You
So,
you don't want to, but Mike doesn't mind it.
well,
but
Mike,
I
here's
but I will say
go ahead, Mike.
yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. I
No, go
will
ahead.
say that they overrepresent what's going on.
I think they're
Um,
optimistic.
Optimistic. Okay, that's a polite way of putting it. So, um, I had a music promoter, and I won't say what type of music because a lot of people know me in my community and they'll know what the deal was. But anyway, I was told that there would be 4 or 5 barbecue vendors, and they had like 30,000 people on a 2.5 day event. And they took my $1,500 entry fee, and then I showed up, and there were 20 smoker outfits, a dozen carnival type setups selling chicken and
That's
hamburgers and hot dogs. And
that's when you started signing contracts, right?
oh yeah, I learned real quick. I lost a lot of money. He drove home in his new BMW, and my family didn't get a vacation that year. So I get all these things in writing, and he, I said, well, Joe Schmo, you told me 4 or 5 barbecues, and he says, well, that was back in November. I said, well, it doesn't matter. Um,
Yeah, I learned that same lesson, Mike. I did a trunk or treat. It was a couple years ago here in my town at the local school right by my house, and they told me I was going to be the only vendor. I pulled up to set up, and there's 3 other vendors already there. I go, "What's the deal here?" Oh, we thought it'd be more the better. You're fine with that, aren't you? I go, "No," and I pulled away.
Yeah.
I just
yeah,
pulled away. I, you know,
I,
um, no, you only have
I,
200 people here,
yeah,
and you have 4 trucks. My max I'm going to sell is to 50 people. That's not worth me pulling my trailer here.
yeah. I have $1,000 minimum to go vend these days. I had a local elementary school, and they wanted me to do a trunk or treat thing, uh, and you know, we do some community outreach things like that. So the gentleman was a local law enforcement officer. I guess his girlfriend was a teacher. So, long story short, he told me that they were expecting about 300 people. And Jeff's right. They tell you 300, and maybe 150 people show up, and they already had a pizza guy. And I said, out of respect to that vendor, I said, that's all you really need. And I
Yeah.
just I just politely said, I just can't do it with those numbers.
Well, the year before, I had done that same. Me and my partner had done that same event, and they had 2 vendors, which is fine. One guy was hot dogs only for the kids,
Sure.
and then there was us. But we knew that going in. Next year, they pulled that on me, and
Hmm.
I'm like, that's the last. I got asked to do it again this year, and I'm not there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right,
Busy.
right. So, yeah, let's say hi to looks like Mr.
Yeah,
Sausage
so
joined us here.
I say, welcome to the stage, the Saucy Pig, joining us, James Davilla. Can you hear me, James?
Yes, sir. Better late than never.
Absolutely, better late than never. I was talking to Jeff. I said he's probably catching him a nap. He's got a new baby.
I
Um,
wish.
just just do a quick intro as to name, where you're at, and how long you've been in the food trailer business.
So I'm James Davilla. I run the Saucy Pig Barbecue in Greenville, South Carolina. I guess I've been here, phew, at 23. I guess going on 7 years now in business for myself.
So 7 years in the trailer. Um,
Yeah.
so everybody. We'll go through, take turns. Um, when you're doing an event like a vending event, like we were just talking about, and they're expecting 600 people, and you guys say plan for 300. What is your method, your personal method on determining how many people to plan to serve, and how do you go about that?
First thing I'm looking for is trying to figure out, well, what type of event is it? Is there going to be a lot of kids there? I mean, certain people with what I'm serving anyway, certain people tend to gravitate toward barbecue, especially if there's more than one food trailer there. Um, but yeah, if you're going to have 600, I usually try to prep for about half of that.
So you plan to serve that many.
I try to serve. Oh, well, let me rephrase that. So certain sides, I'm gonna plan for about half of that, and meat, I'm always gonna plan for about half of that. But yeah, I'd rather bring it back than not have it to sell. I hate to leave money on the table.
But do you change that number depending on how many other vendors they have?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, God, yeah. So again, that kind of goes back to what type of crowd I'm gonna have. If it's a high school function or something like that, a lot of times I won't even touch them. I'll just turn them down. Uh, Apartment communities, I'll turn those down. Uh, but if it's something like say a concert type venue, I do those. Well, I used to do those every Thursday when they were going on here. They do a free music venue outside, and I was the permanent food truck, and then we had two others that would always come in. And I would usually plan for, if they're expecting, we find out who the band is, but say they're expecting 1,000 people, I would usually plan for about 400, pretty close to half, because most of those people come out and they make a whole day of it. But then again, it also depends on who the other food trucks are. If they're unheard of or somebody who doesn't have something very desirable, you might go a little heavier.
Right, right. Yeah, Jeff was talking earlier about doing communities in the middle of COVID, and um, before James had joined us, I kind of built my basic business on catering, but we pivoted and did some of those events, and it's interesting that you turned down apartments. I did well at a few of those, but then I showed up at some of them, and the residents didn't even weren't, they weren't even aware that we were coming. So what I've done is I've gone to having a minimum of sales guarantee, and as long as I make that minimum, they don't owe me anything, and it kind of lights a little bit of fire under them to promote it. Quite frankly, most of them aren't going to agree to it. All they want a food truck. Well, that's not enough for me to go out anymore.
Yeah, I
So,
agree with
Well,
that. My wife actually is a property manager in an apartment community, and they have to do all these apartments nowadays have to do what they call resident events, and they have so many they have to do every month. So, and they have a budget for it. So, being able to get a food truck to come out there, say you've got, say an apartment community has to do 4 resident events, and they only have a $1,200 budget for the whole month. A food truck, being able to bring a food truck out is a way that they can kind of have a resident event without having to use any of their budget if they don't have to, if you hit your minimum. So they're definitely going to try to promote now.
so what I typically do, guys, is I'll say there's an event that's supposed to be 1,000 people, and there's going to be 5 food trucks. What I do is I divide that by the 5. Imagine I'm going to get half of that and add 20%. So in other words, if I divide it by 5, that's 200. 50% of that's 100, and add 20% for my food prep. So I'm cooking for 120 people, and that typically ends up where I'm just about running out.
I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm only cooking for 120, I'm not carrying the trailer nowhere.
No, I was just using round numbers.
Yeah, that's just too much work for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk average ticket prices, but I tell these communities that my $1,000 minimum is basically about 70 orders. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more. And if they can't guarantee, oh well, we've got 500 residents. All right, well, guarantee me that 70 of them are going to come eat, and we'll come pull up. But not including the cost of food, it cost me about $200 to leave the yard. So, James is right. I mean, basically, yeah, I'm only feeding 80 or 100 people. If it's guaranteed as a catered event, obviously I do it. I've catered on the beaches for 12 people from Germany. The bill was obviously, expensive on a per person basis. But I'm not going to your apartment building and feeding 30 guests.
for and in the hopes of. So when do you have something, Jeff?
No, typically if I'm doing something that's 30 guests, it's a stop and drop. That's it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
it's I'm not gonna
delivery.
be sitting there doing service. Okay, it's gonna be I'm gonna drop off a Cambro and I'm gonna pick up the Cambro maybe later. Or you're gonna drop it
Yeah,
back
why
off to
not?
me, kind of thing. That's typically if I'm doing 30 people, that's the only way I'm doing it. I'm delivering some pans, a couple chafing dishes, and I'm gone.
Yeah, drop off catering, so not a bad way to do it. And then you're not sitting there all day in your trailer kind of thing. We
Doing
did an
everything.
event. Yeah, we did a 4th of July event in Pasco County at a brewery, and it was actually a Friday night. And this was probably early to mid 2000s. And Friday night, July 3rd, and we had $70 in sales. So you learn pretty quick on those events.
I prefer everything to be stop and drop. To be honest with you, I do the Home Depots here, and it's a catering for 150. There's 5 stores around me, and they on the holidays they serve their employees.
Hmm.
So if you imagine there's 750 people if I were to do them all in one day, and those are all stop and drops. I have Cambros and coolers on site, and I put a warming station in there. So all they got to do is just change the pans throughout the day, drop them off, come pick them up on the following day, and those are extremely good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So is there any you mentioned that would be a corporate event. Is there any trick to getting your food truck or food trailer or catering business into like a commercial pipeline, I guess you could say?
Yeah, you
Have you
gotta know
found
somebody
something?
that knows somebody.
Say again, James.
So you gotta know somebody that knows somebody.
One of the things I did when I first opened is I identified some businesses locally here, and I went and served lunch to the management. Here, this is free, and that led to some regular customers, but that's also where I got some of my catering business that I have now.
Yeah, it's a great marketing tool.
It doesn't cost
Did
you that
you?
much. It's better than the other aspects of advertising you can go through because Yelp is worthless. A lot of these other avenues are you'll have the high school company and go, hey, can you cook for us at a discount and we'll give you this advertising, and they go, it's $1,000 worth of a package. That's your perceived worth of that. It's actually worth zero because unless you can guarantee me 100 guests coming to my trailer, it's worthless to me. Okay, it doesn't make any sense to advertise like that.
Yeah, I agree. I get a lot
100%.
of yeah, I get a lot of mine just due to longevity. People find me online, social media, you
Or they
know.
had your food at another event.
Yes, and all of those catering circles overlap. I did a pig roast for 200 this past Saturday, and saw clients, from other events, and um, you know, but that takes, word of mouth and intersecting circles of clients. That takes a little while to develop.
Yeah, a lot of it's just time.
Just
Once
just
once
just
you've been around
time
for a
and
while, yeah, people talk, and like you said, word of mouth. Um, if you're getting out there and you got a good product, you really just got to bite the bullet for the first little while until it picks up, and I mean, eventually you're either gonna sink or swim.
Well, I would say that if somebody's thinking about opening up a food trailer, you better plan on at least 6 to 9 months before you start getting some traction,
Yeah, absolutely.
or enough traction to make it profitable enough to be viable.
I
I
mean, I
I
remember when I
tell
first started.
people,
I remember many a days just sitting out there, at different spots trying to find the right place and not knowing what I was doing. And we'd sit out all day and might make $200 if I was lucky.
I've done 18 before.
Oh wow.
yeah, and I tell people that they should be able to support their bills for a year. I had some trade skills when I quit my day job, and yeah, I've got friends that are like, well, Mike, if Mike can do it, I can do it too. Well, yeah, of course. There's a lot of us that are doing really well, but they've got mortgages and car payments and kids going to the orthodontist, for braces, or they're in private school and they want to leave a corporate job where they're making six figures and they got benefits. Those, and I hear that and it's like, yeah, maybe you want to keep your day job, but I would never discourage anybody. But realistically, it doesn't happen overnight.
yeah, for
The
sure.
first 3 months, I was side hustling. I'd I'd go out in the morning and side hustle, open up the trailer, get done, close the trailer, and go out and side hustle till midnight. Just to have some kind of money coming into the house.
Oh yeah, I remember those days. I remember those well.
So if you were talking somebody doing just scraping by, what are bare necessities that you need to be able to do a catering, a vending event rather?
Here's here's advice I would give, and it's time management. Because you can go cook every day and spend 14 hours a day at the trailer, or you can make it more manageable and do your bulk of your protein cooking 2 days a week, and then make sure you're doing your sides and that during your working day. Okay, to try to make it more manageable time wise, so it seems at least more worth it to you. You're not exhausting all your free time with your family, making it even worse on yourself. So managing that time that you're actually at the trailer is important, so that you don't burn out as fast. To me, now as far as the caterings is what I would tailor my business towards. Pretty much, if I could, that's all I'd want to do, because you'd have
Mhm.
no food costs in excess of waste and stuff. You have a controllable food cost. You can control your time more, um, and it's more profitable. I mean, and it takes you less time.
I agree with that. I'm living the dream. I What hurt me though was, when the pandemic hit, um, and Jeff had mentioned it earlier. I was at a little bit of a disadvantage because the food trucks had been doing some of these neighborhood associations and some of these things, and I did a few of them. I run my business pretty lean, so and I'm getting older, so my bills aren't quite as crazy as some. But so yeah, the catering thing's really been good to us, so I agree with that. But it hurt me a little bit during the pandemic. I lost all my catering, obviously. I do a lot of retirement communities and that kind of thing, corporate events. So there's some advantages to doing both.
Yeah, if I had my choice, though, it would strictly be catering. I wouldn't touch the trailer if I didn't have to.
Yeah, the trailer. The thing is that gives you that relevancy all the time. People keeps you in people's mind because they come by and taste your food, and it keeps you forward with them as far as when they think about somebody that they're going to go to for catering.
True, but to me, at this point of where I'm at now, to me, the trailer is something to do when I don't have a catering job. Literally, I try my best not to take that thing out.
That's why I got a motorcycle.
I'm a motorcycle guy. I did the Saturday morning market in downtown for almost 20 years, and then you would 9 times out of 10 would pack up and go cater on a Saturday evening. So I discontinued that in December of 21, but it was important to stay relevant and meet some new customers and then get and have be able to have people try your food. So I think that that is important.
So the trailer or the truck would be very important for somebody starting out, just for I guess visibility and legitimacy. What are some of the other items, like like you guys had mentioned Cambros and that sort of thing? What are some gotta haves on the truck for somebody that literally just starting out?
One to me that's
Smoker.
another time thing. Yeah, smoker. Another time thing is I had two refrigerators on the trailer. One had all the perishables in it. The other one I used strictly for when I took stuff out of the warming stations directly in the refrigerator, so I didn't have to spend that 2 hours waiting for them to cool down or ice bath them before I could leave the trailer. So it's a time management thing. That refrigerator was strictly for my pans and stuff to go in hot, so I didn't have to follow food safe on it as far as getting it down to town.
Interesting. What about you, Mike?
Must-haves. I, and I see it all the time. The equipment that you own, pretty much is going to drive what your menu is. Um, I think Jeff had mentioned that earlier. And, I don't do fried foods, so I don't have fryers on board, which is, a benefit in a lot of ways. But yeah, I do have a pop-up tent. Um, kind of keep people out of the weather kind of thing. I've got GoPros and so I've got coolers, I've got Cambros. Um, yeah, adequate refrigeration is important.
A
That's a
cash
great
box.
idea. Well, hopefully you need that cash box. Um, and I've got a sign. That's a great thing, though, James. I've got I usually have a sign up that says, we love cash. Um, credit card fees and all that are, you know, I generally don't take credit cards for catering either. It's uh, debit off of Venmo, Zelle, checks, cash. I'd rather not tack on credit card fees.
Everyday use on the trailer, I do take credit cards and don't have fees, but on a catering, something $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, I'm putting 4% unless you're going to pay me cash or check.
Well, for vending, yeah, yeah, and yes, I agree. For vending, I just build the fee in. You know, it is
Right.
what it is.
Yeah, that's
But
what I
yeah,
do.
if it's a, I'm sorry, go ahead,
I was
James.
gonna say, yeah, I do the same thing. If you look at the bottom of my receipt, everything's itemized, and instead of saying tax, it just says fees, and that's a tax. And then I also build in a credit card fee as well.
Yeah, on a $5,000 catering, I can't lose $150 in credit card fees. I just can't these days.
No,
Yeah, I
margins are
understand
too
that, but a
thin.
lot of these corporate places only pay with credit cards, and I'm not going to turn down a $5,000 job over $150 credit card fee. So I'll
And
just bill
Jeff,
it back in as fees, and they usually just roll with it. They don't care. It's not their money.
yeah, Jeff mentioned the Home Depot. I don't know if it's company wide, but when I deal with them here, if you can't take American Express, you're not working with them.
No, that's correct. It's their corporate cards
So,
that all their
and
ASDSs have.
and that's fine. I had the 3.5% on and go on about my day. They're a large corporation and we're a small business, and um, I I try to word it on my contracts that we're offering a cash or check discount, and that if they need to use a credit card, that there's a fee added on. I had a little bit of legal work done over the summer in North Georgia, and the lawyer's office was apologetic. They were like, well, if you don't have a check, that there's a 3% credit card fee. You know, they're not paying it either.
Well, there's only one person getting rich when you're using all that credit, and
The credit.
that's the banks. So I mean, the value in the dollar. That's all it is.
Well, and sometimes it's the user. They want those airline miles or the perks off their credit card use. They get a little extra money for their honeymoon by billing everything to a credit card.
Convenience, not having to carry cash in these times. There's all kinds
Yeah,
of reasons why.
it's their convenience, not mine.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but I mean, like, I'm on the way to Sam's right now, and guess what? I'm about to go here and spend about $1,200, and I'm putting it on a credit card
Yeah.
because I get 2% back from Sam's. I get 2.5% back on my credit card. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not gonna knock the customer for using a credit card when I'm out here doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
No, I was
No, but
nobody was
when
knocking them.
no, I'm not knocking it. I mean, I've seen people on groups that they complain about credit card fees at a restaurant. They're paying it at the grocery store. It's just hidden in the bill.
Oh yeah, it's incorporated already.
I mean, you are
So
paying it.
yeah. See, you're paying it regardless, really. It's just what it's going to be labeled or what it's going to be called. Um, so speaking of payments and sort of thing, have you guys dealt with the POS systems, point of sale for those not in the understanding there? Do you use a particular POS? Have you had experience with multiple or different POS systems that you would suggest use one over the other? Or have you just gone away from POS altogether?
I use Square now. I don't remember what I use actually.
That's what I
Whatever it
used
was.
to.
Yeah, I got away from whatever it was before, and I don't even remember what it was to be honest. I've been with Square so long now. And yeah, I've enjoyed them. Their rates are good. I mean, I can't complain.
I found the rates good.
I
There was a scare there. What was that? A couple months ago that their system went down nationwide.
Oh
64
yeah,
million users. I,
yeah.
I saved all but one sale, and that customer actually came to my trailer like 2 weeks ago, and she goes, "Hey, I never got the bill. You were the one. You were the one." And here's what happened. And she
oh
goes, "Well, charge me." So she paid. She paid her bill.
Oh, that's awesome.
oh yeah, I've used Lavu and a few Aloha, I think is another one. I've used a few in restaurants and such, but I use Square as well. Mainly because uh, I don't use it that often. There are, some cheaper pass through, through your own bank or that type of thing if you're running a restaurant where, obviously you've got a lot bigger volume. But Square works for me too. And yeah, I saw that when that happened, Jeff. I take my summers off now, but I saw that. But yeah, that's a great client. You gotta love clients like that.
Well, my bank offers Clover, and when they
Oh,
came and visited me, They the fees were way higher than Square.
Yeah.
And it's not user friendly as far as changing prices, items, that type of thing. Yeah, Clover's a train wreck.
So, so this
Train wreck.
particular podcast will not be sponsored by Clover.
Wes is working on a deal with them. That's why he asked the question.
Hey, I mean,
Not brought.
what can go? They're great. Yeah, give them a try.
All right, edit it and leave that part in, Wes.
Yeah, brought to you in part by Clover.
I don't know any. I don't. I've seen a few people that love Clover. I mean, yeah, yeah. No thanks. I put them right up there with Yelp.
Yeah, we had Vital when we were doing it, and I mean it was pretty easy to set up, and it was fine. The fees were higher than they should have been, and I would probably lean towards Square myself if I was going to get back in it.
Well, yeah, the Square, the only one that's really higher is if you have to manually enter a card. I think I had to do that the last 6 months, maybe twice. So they were 3% for that. But other than that, it's 2%, right, guys? I think it is.
I think it's like 2% plus 10 cents per transaction or something.
Yeah, that's right, James. That's right.
2.7 and 15 cents a swipe or something. Gosh. Manual input, I think, is 3.5%.
So pretty well across the board about the same fees then.
Yeah, roughly, and it's convenient.
So we're coming up on almost up on an hour here, and I know you guys have all got events that are pressing and catering occupations that are coming up. We will table this for now, and I definitely want to do this again, maybe with the rest of my guests not skipping out on me. Go ahead and give everybody your socials where they can find you if they would like to book you. Jeff, you can start.
You find me on Facebook at Smoking Goat Barbecue.
Mike?
You can find me on Facebook at M&M Barbecue and Tampa Pig Roast, or online at Tampa Pig Roast or M&M BBQ.
And James.
I'm on Facebook at The Saucy Pig, and you can catch me online at thesaucypigbbq.com.
Fantastic, guys. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us, and we will table this until next time. Guys, if you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would appreciate a review, a like, a share. Shout out to our guests this week, Jeff Maxwell in Ottawa, Tennessee, Mike Silverstein down in St. Pete, and Saucy Pig over in Greenville, South Carolina. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would appreciate a review, a like, a share, and as always, keep smoking.